Hi everybody, I'm John Cummings, the Dean of the School of Science at Siena, and I want to talk to you about the School of Science, and in particular, I want to direct this at undeclared students, students without a major. We actually don't call that undeclared at Siena anymore, we call it exploring, and there's a really good reason for that I'm going to try to explain in the next few slides. If we use the old term undecided, it sounds like you can't choose a major. Why is that? Well, first of all, the whole idea of splitting knowledge up into pieces is a fairly modern idea, and it's arbitrary how you split it up. You may be interested in many fields and majors. You can't pick one. Your interests are very broad. Maybe your interests fall into a gap between two or more of the majors, given the way we've split this up. Think back to the first point. It's an arbitrary division how we split things up. Your interest may fall right at a crack. Maybe you're worried that what you want to do in the future might be different than what you want to do now. How do you choose a major now when you're not sure what your interests are going to be in the future? There's some fear of making a mistake in your decision now. There's lots of other reasons. You may have different reasons. I'm just listing a few of these. What I'm going to try and do is convince you that it doesn't matter. Pick what feels right now and don't worry about making a mistake. To do that, I want to look at a few historical examples of people's training versus their success. So let's start with the question. Who figured out the chemical basis of heredity? I want to start with a disclaimer. Some of my answers may be a little bit debatable, perhaps even wrong, but they will be illustrative of the point that I'm trying to make. So, who is it that figured out that heredity was a chemical process? Was this a biologist? Chemist? Some people may be saying Watson and Crick. They won the Nobel Prize for discovering the structure of DNA. Was it Rosalind Franklin, who famously got left off of that Nobel Prize award because she was a woman? I claim it was this guy, Erwin Schrödinger. People probably know him best through his famous thought experiment known as Schrödinger's cat. If you watch the television show The Big Bang Theory, I'm sure you've heard about Schrödinger's cat. He was a physicist. What did he have to do with DNA? In 1944, he wrote an amazing book called What is Life? If you're interested at all in this question, what is life, I highly recommend this book, very readable. In it, he introduces the idea of something called an aperiodic crystal and says the information necessary to describe life is stored in the covalent bonds of this aperiodic crystal. Basically, he was proposing the idea of DNA long before it was discovered, and he came up with this idea by thinking about how it needed to work based on what he knew it had to do. Let's look at another example. New question. Who invented the modern computer? Okay, that's a really broad question. Let's narrow it down a bit. Who influenced the way we use computers today? Who was the most influential person in designing the interfaces, the networks we use, etc.? Lots of people might say Steve Jobs, Bill Gates. So, I'm sure computer scientists spring to mind. Again, I'll claim it was J.C.R. Licklider, who was known as Lick to his friends and admirers. Who is this guy? He was a psychologist who studied psychoacoustics. Many people that study the history of computers call him computing's Johnny Appleseed, because so much of what we have today sprang from the seeds that he planted back in the early 60s. His ideas from the early 60s led directly to things like the mouse and the graphical computer interface. He wrote a paper in 1960 called The Man-Computer Symbiosis that really laid all of the foundations of the field HCI that we have today, where human-computer interactions. In '62, he was put in charge of the government's advanced research project known as Information Processing Techniques Office. And there he developed all the ideas of time-sharing computers, networking, all laid out in a series of memos called the Intergalactic Computer Network. So he had a sense of humor. So what is the lesson from these examples? Why did I tell you these stories? Well, their contributions were all made in fields that they were not trained in. Their major did not determine where they made their contribution. What happened is in these examples, they were trained to think like scientists. They were trained to think critically. And this was more important than the facts they learned. Right? You may say, well, that sounds great, but how is that going to help me when I leave here? I need a job. I have to pay back my student loans. Well, let's look at a survey that's done yearly by an organization called NACE, the National Association of Colleges Employers. It's a nonprofit that studies the interplay between higher ed and the workforce. And they ask employers what they're looking for when they hire employees. And here are the results of that survey. And the individual items are interesting, but what I want to call your attention to is you have to go all the way down this list to number 8 to get to something, in this case technical skills, that would be related to your major, that's specific to the major that you would pick. So as I said a few slides ago, don't worry about being exploring. You'll find a major that interests you, and at Siena, whatever that major is, you'll learn to think critically in a way that will make you successful in whatever field you wind up in down the road. If you happen to choose a major in the School of Science, I want to give you a quick little informal tour to show you some of the resources and facilities that will help make you successful in the school. Let's take a little walk through the School of Science now. So here's Roger Bacon from the quad. If we turn down here a bit, you can just make out through the trees the observatory up on the roof of Roger Bacon. I'll take you up there in a minute. On the roof of Roger Bacon. I'll take you up there in a minute. Behind this building is the Morrell Science Center. Behind this building, and I will walk you through to the Sync Center, which is a nice. And I will walk you through to the Sync Center, which is a nice facility that we have available for research and faculty. Facility that we have available for students and faculty. We have the entrance to Roger Bacon from the quad. You can see if you're unvaccinated, we require masking. If you're vaccinated, you can enter without a mask, as these students right here are.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm trapped holding the door. I'll be here just a moment. Hello.
Thank you.
And here we go. So now I want to show you the lobby of Roger Bacon, where there's often lots of activity between classes. This is a great place for students to hang out. They'll study here. They will socialize here. Sometimes there are events here. It's a great space and a fun place for students to get together. My office is right off the lobby. If you're in the building and you want to come say hello, it's room 204. The door is always open when I'm in there. Please feel free to stop by and say hi. Right around the corner from the lobby is the School of Science office. There's announcements on the bulletin board here. And here is the office. This is the nerve center of the School of Science. It's a hub of activity. Faculty come in here, get their mail from these boxes. Students often come in here to see Angela McKeever, who is the most important person in the School of Science. Hi, Angela.
Hi, how are you?
Angela does everything I don't know how to do, and that means she does a lot of stuff. She takes care of student needs with a smile. Speaking of students, we often have a student here at the desk. Hello. How you doing? They're able to help you with any problems you have. They'll direct you to the person that can answer your questions if they can't answer them. Kerry Horton is the student coordinator. She is the den mother of the School of Science. She will take care of all of your needs. So stop by and say hello to them if you get a chance. Here we are at the Saint Center, the Stewart's Advanced Instrumentation and Technology Center. This is a great facility that has lots of advanced instrumentation, including electron microscope, mass spectrometer, NMR spectrometer. Chris Kalanko, the director, is in the background there, hard at work. This is a great place for students to work on research projects, either their own projects they're working on with faculty, independent studies. Chris will guide you through the training on the instruments and make sure you get the most out of this experience. So the Pat Brown room in the Morrell Science Center is also another great student space. We're directly below the Saint Center right now, and this is the Pat Brown room. There's some students enjoying this great space. It's on the corner of the building, nice light. Students spend a lot of time in here studying, sometimes socializing. It's a good space to build camaraderie in the department. So these are biology students. The GE Lounge on the first floor of Morrell is also another space that students use for studying and socializing. This is at the other end of the building, right next to this flyway, which takes you back to Roger Bacon. From the first floor Roger Bacon, we can ride the elevator up to the fourth floor, and I can show you the observatory from there. And as we exit the elevator onto the fourth floor, we are right around the corner from the observatory. So the observatory was added to Roger Bacon about 4 years ago through a generous grant from the Sherman Fairchild Foundation, and that allowed us to build this deck up on the roof, on the third floor roof of Roger Bacon, and establish this dome, which houses the largest telescope in the Capital District. There are some smaller portable telescopes on the deck that we can use for public observing nights, when classes come up here for student projects. And then the main telescope, I can take you into the dome to see. And here is our telescope. This is a 0.7 meter telescope. It's almost 3 feet. This is, as I said, it's the largest telescope in the Capital District. Not in use now because the sun is up, but at night, this slit you see in the roof opens up, and the telescope is exposed to the wonders of the universe. Students do lots of really interesting projects up here with faculty. They've studied exoplanets, planets that are found around stars not in our solar system. They've studied, they've tracked asteroids, numerous projects, very interesting. If you're interested in astronomy, we have some fantastic astronomers on the staff here. So thanks a lot for taking the time to listen to me. I hope you enjoyed the tour. Please feel free to stop by my office in the School of Science anytime. If the door's open, you're always welcome. Say hello, ask me any questions you might have, and thank you very much again.